Welcome to the Crazy Dre Podcast Show. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to the show. Today we got a special guest. His name is Emmitt. He owns a cafe, Eden Café, on the west side of Grand Rapids. I go and drink there every once in a while, the coffee or tea. Emmitt, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Dre. I really love being here. Thanks for stopping in.
Well, thank you so much. So today, folks, we're going to talk about just a little different topic. I'm always going to stick with sports with this, but we're going to talk about LeBron James and Michael Jordan, who is the GOAT. Now, Emmitt, who's 27, has never seen MJ, but he's pretty convincing that LeBron is better than MJ. And I would love to hear a millennial discuss the reasoning. I always hear from other people outside of YouTube, and you never know what they're talking about because you don't know who they are. But because I know Emmitt a little bit through his business, I'm going to let him discuss it, and then I'll pop in this little segment right here. Say we got the career stats of Michael Jordan and LeBron James. Let's start with this. When did you become a basketball fan? And if you are, or are you still an NBA fan, and why not?
Yeah, so basketball growing up was always in my household. My brother is a basketball coach and is very knowledgeable of the game. So that was kind of passed along to me growing up. And so I'm a huge fan of the game, love playing it, play it still. And I would have to say, as I got older, I became more of a fan of the game of basketball as a whole. Just growing up playing it, I wasn't like totally bought into what basketball was. I was always just kind of like, oh yeah, it's a fun little thing to play, but understanding now I'm an older age, I love to watch it. I love to, even when I'm like playing pickup games, I like to watch like how the movement is going on in the court and how um what's happening. I think I become more of a student of the game. A lot of times when I go home to go visit my family, I find myself with me and my brother watching film of different basketball teams. We'd be kind of talking some shop a little bit on like what's happening on the court and just sharing my thoughts. He shares his thoughts. He's obviously leaps and bounds smarter than I am. And so being able to have those discussions with him is always so much fun and be able to pick his brain on situations, different actions, and different teams and their play styles. So, yeah, basketball is a big part of my life.
So when you talk about basketball and you go back home, are you from the state of Michigan? Or are you Grand Rapids area? Where is that?
Yeah, I'm originally from, I would say I was born in Detroit, adopted at a young age, and then raised in a pretty small town called McBain, Michigan. I don't know if you've ever heard of it. So it's a pretty small town. We like to say we have more cows than people. But I would have to say we are known for a very strong basketball school. Basketball coach in high school being Bruce Copeman. We find a way to make it to the Breslin very often, even being just a small Class C school. We're just kind of our defensive play style is very tenacious, defensive focused, and good solid basketball and setting screens, all that good jazz.
All right. So you do have basketball knowledge. Thank you. Because for a while I thought you were just like, I'll just watch LeBron James and think he's just better. So you do have basketball topics about concepts and how the game is played. Now,
Yeah.
you grew up in the era of LeBron James and Steph Curry and all these guys. And the game is a lot faster, a lot quicker, and everything else with it. So, speaking of LeBron James, or you can talk about any player that you want to, what is it that you think about this tone of basketball that you appreciate more of? Well, let's not even discuss more or less based on generation, but what is it that you like about LeBron James?
I guess I'll speak on two parts on that. I would have to say his longevity and peak, we're looking at, and also his being able to go through the systems and understanding like he's very system proof, right? He's not just saying like, "Oh, I'm in one system, I can dominate that system." Like, no, he was able to go through multiple systems and require that. The quality of competition is leaps and bounds better. Not saying it's better basketball to watch necessarily, but the quality of competition is better than um, back in the day, and I would have to say.
The
And
Michael
then
Jordan era.
kind of my final point is the individual greatness as a whole, and then the generational aspect on impact and what um, LeBron James has done throughout his tenure.
All right. So let's just get to this discussion. Do you know what load management is? Do you know what that
Yeah, one hundred
concept is?
percent. Hmm.
So it means the team approaches a an NBA franchise that manages the workload of their players, especially their star players, like LeBron James, Steph Curry, even Kevin Durant, and those guys, or
Yeah,
even Giannis. Now, in the Michael Jordan era, this is why I think this is quite a difference between the Michael Jordan era, Isaiah Thomas, Larry Bird, McHale, Magic Johnson. I mean, I'm going that far. Uh, that they played even though they were hurt because they felt that the fan base, that everyone else expected them to play, even on the days that they were not 100%.
sure.
How do you defend someone like LeBron James who is able to pick and choose days and nights off when you have fans out there like, hey, I'm gonna spend $120 and these are rapture seats, so they're on top,
For
and
sure.
their favorite player isn't there, or the guy that they want to grow up to watch and be like. So how do you so do you think that it's the NBA's fault, or do you think it's management's fault, or do you think it's the players' fault, or do you think it's not any of those three faults at all?
Yeah. So I'm going to answer your question in two parts. If we look at the games played between Michael Jordan and LeBron James based on the years that were actually played, we have Michael Jordan playing from age 21 to 34, I believe. And then if I just take a snippet from LeBron James playing from 21 to 34, LeBron James played 250 more games than Michael Jordan. So if we look at that time frame, you're looking at, I mean, that to answer your question, you're looking at almost three extra full seasons that LeBron James is playing in that aspect. And I'm just I'm rooting this response and kind of that versus Michael Jordan versus LeBron James. So when we're looking at total games played, you're looking at Michael Jordan had about 1,100, and you're looking at Michael Jordan looking at 1,360. So understanding that in this snippet of time period of people playing,
Mhm.
LeBron James clearly played more. So understanding that concept. So even with load management being a thing, LeBron James still played more games in that aspect of the time period. Now, load management discussion as a whole, I'm not a doctor, so I don't want to necessarily specify on any of those things necessarily. I do believe the NBA has an issue with a lot of games and a lot of meaningless games. I'm not saying that they need a cutback or expand. 'Cause again, I'm not. They're trying to get as much money as possible. The NBA isn't necessarily. It's an act, right? It's entertainment. And so the
Mhm.
best part that these entertainers per se can take back some of their liberty, their humanity, not being entertainers, is saying, "Hey, like I can't play for the longevity of my career, or even so the longevity of me being able to not have an ACL for my family to go be able to hang out and play basketball with my kid in the backyard. Me being able to not be in the hospital for so many days, years, months because I am missing that time either on the court or with my family, right? So these forcing these individuals to play when they're hurt or even have a slight, I would say, acute
Discomfort.
injuries, discomfort, I
Mhm.
would say is like, yes, that's unfortunate to a fan that might want to be there. But now think of it as a two-pronged answer. Now there's a better chance that that player can play for more years, so you can actually find out that the ability to see them again, right? Instead of having a
Mhm.
shorter window of time to see them, now they have a longer. Like LeBron James again is a perfect example. You have a longer window of time to be able to see him. My brother would love to go see him like all the time. And now he's able to go see him when he played the Pistons one time and he's able to go get really good seats, right? You probably wouldn't be able to have that. And that was recently, I believe, within the last 3 years. And so
Mhm.
you wouldn't be able to have that if he was saying maybe not doing load management. And there's also a lot more research out there to kind of defend players not playing. And I'm not gonna get you wrong, Dre. A lot of these players are saying, I got a little sniffle. I'm gonna sit this one out, coach. So you have that happening in the NBA. But I'm not. I am a barista from Grand Rapids, Michigan. I'm not the one to say if a player
So
can play or not.
let me go back to something. So Michael Jordan said that uh, uh, players that need time off to be with their family, there's off seasons for that, and you're only playing 2.5 hours those nights. So it's part of your job, and it'd be like if you who own a business,
Mhm.
you don't want to own. Let's say you don't want to go to work, but it's your business, and then if you have employees that don't want to show up, who's going to run your business? So
Right.
you're right in that aspect they're them as entertainers, but it's such a short period of their lives that they are gifted with great athleticism and
Mhm.
great bodies. As long as they take care of themselves, they're gonna not always feel the best at every other night or every 2 nights that they play. But there is also discussion that these guys are getting hurt because they don't have practices like they did in the 80s and 90s. Well, I should say like late 80s and 90s, where they would have to go to practice and they would have to go up and down the court. And a lot of these guys are getting hurt because they don't have practices. So that uh, there's been discussion that as soon as they have 2 or 3 days off without any type of athletic movement and then go full speed, that's when they're getting hurt. And that's something that even Michael Jordan has said himself, and his nemesis Isaiah Thomas. Now,
Yeah.
we all know that Isaiah and Michael don't like each other. Long story short, they competed against each other in those glory years of the Pistons and Bulls.
For sure.
But isn't that you're just kind of letting people say that what they want to hear, but in reality, you also have a job to do. So how can you defend their uh, lack of playing a game for 2 hours where you have to be at your job at 8 o'clock till whenever it closes, and so does your employees? I mean, there has to be some responsibility for these players to be part of that contract. They're being paid millions of dollars to play a child's game.
Yeah, and I would have to say the answer to that question is more or less, like you said, what can be should be structured in the contract, and that's what you're seeing a lot of contracts now changing to. And this is kind of dependent. Now you're getting the real ballers for the people that want to check the stipulations within the contract. If you want to be defensive player of the year, if you want to have these titles, you have to play X amount of games. Obviously, back in the day, they didn't have to necessarily do that because um, the quote unquote drive was better, right? You're getting those
Yeah,
athletes
yeah.
that want to be out there.
Mhm,
I'm just going to again resort to LeBron James playing 20% more basketball games than Michael Jordan. So
mhm.
understanding, and also Michael Jordan also retired within those years of framework. And I'm going to get he went and played basketball, baseball, or something like that. But I'm not going to say it's easier for Michael Jordan to say that, but it's easier for Michael Jordan to say that because of saying like, I'm just going to retire for this year. I don't want to play. And then he took time to do whatever he wanted to do within those years. Obviously, I think he picked up other sports, you're probably going to say. But he retired for those years to then, quote unquote, go do whatever he wanted, be a family, X, Y, and Z, do those things, um,
Mhm.
and to do that. And I'd have to also kind of argue that basketball has a lot longer games than back in the day. They play more games in a year. They have more games that they're kind of tied to now. They're adding games. They have now the Olympics. I mean, I'm not saying that the
Oh, Olympics.
previous years didn't have the Olympics, but like you're looking at more games played in a year. You're looking at a lot of these athletes are also tied to other things happening. So understanding, like, I think the most definitive argument, if we're going to compare that, obviously, I'm just looking at the window of LeBron James and Michael Jordan, that LeBron James literally played 20% more games than Michael Jordan, if we were going to talk about that. And having that framework of that basketball mindset being like, the accessibility to do other things is so broad. Like these people are also building longevity with their brands. They're not tied up in just only basketball. Same with Michael Jordan, right? We could kind of bring it back to his shoe brand. Like, right, he essentially taught athletes how to brand themselves, but other athletes now are making legit LLCs and businesses for themselves, right? The mindset's different. They're thinking longevity. They're not thinking about, oh, I'm gonna go play basketball. No, they're thinking about, hey, what's my body gonna look like in 20 years? Am I gonna be able to walk? Am I gonna be able to walk my baby down the aisle? Like that, it's all cool to be like, yeah, we're focused on this child's game, but there's more to life in this child's game than these athletes' lives.
Okay, exactly. Let's look at one thing though. Um, for the audience that doesn't know, Michael Jordan did have to read. Well, he was kind of forced to retire the first time because of the gambling issue of Chicago and his uh, problem. Supposedly, there's never been proved. No one's ever talked about it. Jordan's even talked about being too competitive, and that's why he had some gambling problems. Don't know anything else besides that. I would have my own speculations on a different episode of that in itself. Um, however, um, Jordan was lucky that he was able to brand his stuff because a lot of the Nike, Adidas wasn't theirs, and it wasn't Michael Jordan's. And I think if you look at the film of Michael Jordan of his airness and how he jumped and how he flew and how he made things look very easy in the air, I mean, it's unquestionable. There's no one in this NBA era has ever imitated that. Maybe Kobe Bryant at the closest, but in reality, that oddness of, let's say, someone like Michael Jackson, Elvis Presley, those guys had that talent, or even James Brown, uh, just had that it factor, and that's something that Michael Jordan really had. So not only did he get lucky with his brand with Nike because he was going to go with Adidas and go with other brands and all that, but Nike picked it up. So, but saying that, uh, that 20% of more basketball really, in some ways, doesn't really say much if someone like LeBron James right now is not playing and Luka Doncic is playing on the Lakers, and they're kind of trying to push LeBron. I feel like they're pushing LeBron out of that Laker hemisphere because they're not going to want to give him that money. LeBron James' health is physically is probably declining, and I'm not to say that I'm not a physical trainer or anything, but it seems like with sports, you want to be great and your highest peak.
Mhm.
But then why do you want to lag on to a moment of despair of not being good at all? Shaquille O'Neal had that same issue. He was bouncing to team and ended his career with the Boston Celtics, and he could have easily ended it with the Phoenix, no, with Miami Heat when he won a championship with Miami Heat with Dwayne Wade. Even if you take LeBron James, kind of the thing is like he went to one thing to the next thing and didn't finish what he started. So he went to somewhere else, and you can go with the Cleveland. He was one of the first players of the only player to take a team that was completely out of nowhere. Cleveland in his first 3 years, take him to the finals. Uh, Michael Jordan didn't have that. Jordan had his own team that was really bad, and when he finally got Sky Pippen, uh, if Detroit kept beating the Bulls and he wasn't feeling it, he would have just in that era of LeBron, he would have just gone to the Lakers and say, "Hey, let's win a championship against the Pistons." And so with Magic Johnson, that would have never happened. And that's the thing about that's the GOAT conversation. LeBron James has 10 more NBA Finals appearances. Only 4 of them are champions. Michael Jordan had 3 sets of three-peats. And his peak area is when he was really good. Now, would he had more if he didn't have was kicked out of the NBA for those year and a half? Maybe Houston Rockets could have probably took one or two of them. Was that Kenny Smith and Akeem Olajuwon. But don't you think that there's some point to where if LeBron James isn't playing now, and Luka is clearly the younger player, and so is Giannis. I mean, why wouldn't you just go after Giannis and then not go after, and then just kind? Don't you think that there should be a point of gracefully leaving your sport and letting the league take its on its own new identity with Luka? Or I mean, Steph Curry should be the face of the NBA. In my opinion, we're probably really having the wrong discussion between LeBron James, Michael Jordan. It should probably be like Michael Jordan and Steph Curry or stuff like that.
I
So
mean, the same concept, though, if you gotta say Steph and I would argue more super team for Steph than LeBron James because you got KD, all that good jazz. Just a quick question. If I get it, the pushing LeBron James out the door, would you consider 24, 7, and 8 a good stat line? Shooting 51% from the field.
what's that? 24.
24 points, you're looking at 7 rebounds and looking at 8 assists, and then shooting 51.3% from the field. Do you think that is a good stat line?
Yeah, and that's probably that's the LeBron stat line, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So the here's one thing about LeBron James that I will say this, and I don't know if you know anything about Dr. J, but in my opinion, I would say this. He reminds me of more of Dr. J than he does of Magic Johnson or Michael Jordan. And the reason why I say that of Dr. J because Dr. J had that uh, go to the basket mentality. They didn't really have to develop that outside shot that Kobe, Michael, and LeBron does have a pretty good outside shot in itself. He just doesn't. It's not always on cue when he needs it at certain parts of the game, but that's why he drives a lot into the basket when he was younger. Obviously, his basketball knowledge was just there. Yeah, it was there as what I would compare it to more like Michael Jordan's basketball knowledge. Very both athletic, but he reminds me of more of a Dr. J. Just that go to the bat, and his just awareness with the teammates. Dr. J had that apparent vision to pass the ball to guys like go for it.
Right. Question. You mentioned comparing Michael Jordan's basketball IQ with LeBron James.
Mhm.
So the Jordan rules, right? They went into effect, right? They were physically demanding on Michael Jordan, right? But
Detroit Pistons.
the key of that was to double and triple team him, right?
Yeah,
So if I'm going to double and triple team, my basketball IQ was telling me there's somebody open. So if
yeah,
someone were to go, no one's double teaming or triple teaming LeBron James, do you know why? Because he'll make the best pass to in order to get that wide open layup,
yeah.
that lob to the hoop. So understanding that even that basketball IQ argument, I feel is null and void because there were literal rules based on double teaming Michael Jordan. And I get it, there's probably a more physical approach that came to double teaming him. But a
Mhm.
simple double team, oh, it's a trap. You do doubles back, survey the floor, up, down, swing it, kick, drive hard to one side, get that pass off. It's very simple basketball knowledge and understanding that a set of Jordan rules being just double teaming him was able to kind of null and void that. I'm not saying that it wouldn't null and void LeBron James. You don't see double teams just coming to him.
So you do have a good point there. I will tell you this: Jordan rules was only created because of the Detroit Pistons. Jordan was very stubborn, and I think LeBron is completely opposite of stubborn. I think one advantage that LeBron has is that his like he didn't have to be that bully, athletic leader that Michael Jordan was, and I think the difference was is that Michael Jordan's teammates in the '80s, before Scottie Pippen and Steve Kerr, and even before Craig Hodges, which was the guy that actually made more 3 pointers like Steve Kerr in the second three-peat. Uh, he didn't have that, and his teammates were drunks and alcoholics, and a lot of garbage stuff was going on. So he wouldn't pass the ball, and very much so. And I think even with the Detroit Pistons, they knew like, you know what, we're going to take two guys and three guys and hammer you because you're not going to pass the ball to the guy who can't shoot. And with LeBron James, his personality is just so different. It's mellow. And I compare it to Dr. J. I feel like him as Dr. J to me, and him and LeBron James and Dr. J have that same personality. They're really smooth and cool. They're they don't have to uh, prove themselves to no one, and they're just a different mentality. With Michael Jordan, it was Isaiah Thomas was better. I think Isaiah Thomas in some ways was better than Michael Jordan in aspects of just the whole game itself, shooting and all that. Even though the percentage doesn't show it in the point percentage of the average game, doesn't really show it for Isaiah Thomas, but it's Isaiah Thomas as a assist, defense, team leader, probably is a little bit better than Michael Jordan. Unfortunately for Michael, he's kind of that guy that just, if you're not his best friend, even Scottie Pippen doesn't even talk to him. And I don't know. I don't know what happened to Michael Jordan, and I almost feel bad for him. But I mean, I think that's part of the reason why LeBron James is still in the league because he's more likable. And the guys may not like him all the time, but the guy respects his teammates a little bit more. And then they're like, okay, fine. Well, we'll listen to
Mm.
you and play.
I think that I think
Yeah, go
that
ahead.
carries, sorry to interrupt, but I think that carries a lot into the debate, the GOAT debate category. Because understanding, like you said, Michael Jordan has a very authoritarianism style core belief system, right? It's
Yeah.
demanding, it demands perfection. It's also berating teammates publicly. It has low empathy. You're looking at a hierarchical, like Michael Jordan's on top, and that's the only say so if so. It's very aggressive physical fights, right? And
Hmm.
we're looking at, like, again, for me, if I'm going to consider somebody the GOAT, that inspires teammates around them. It's a transformational leadership. It's leading by collaboration, by example, right? You tell a person like it's a good give and take, right? Like LeBron James can be stubborn, he can be authoritarianism, but he also mainly knows where his limits need to be. And that's the mark of a good leader, aka bringing into a good GOAT, right? You don't want to work or have a leadership style that's someone that's like a just an awful rude person to you,
Yeah.
right? I'm not going to play for that. And so being able to bring that into the roundup back to the GOAT debate, you're looking at somebody that, like, they brought the teammates. Hey, I want to raise your level of expectation. That makes the whole team better, and that can deliver a team a better championship style, right? And then that builds that GOAT debate, in my opinion. When you have somebody that's saying, "Hey, you're this person, you're this and that, you're an awful shooter. I'm not gonna pass it to you, even though I'm getting triple teamed. Da 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 da. Even though you're wide open, you possibly drive or shoot." That negatively impacts a player on your team, which negatively impacts your team, which I would consider a negative on the GOAT debate because theoretically, that should be in play to talk about the GOAT debate, in my opinion.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, I brought it up. So, I mean, I think that's the final call on the fighting curtain. I mean, there's, is there any form of place where you would argue in Michael Jordan's stance if you had to? Is there any
I mean,
part of it?
yeah, if I would have had to, I'll give you like you if you want to bring up the stats again, we can bring up that graphic. But if you look at the stats, right, I'll give you that Michael Jordan scores average more points a game is a lot higher than Michael's. But when I consider basketball, like right, if we want like I would also give it that Michael Jordan's prime was probably brighter, if that's what we want to say. It was like I would compare it to like a flamethrower, right?
Yeah.
Hot, bright, all this good jazz. If you're looking at stats wise, right?
Yeah.
All these aggressive, right? But then
Hmm.
I also look at basketball as a whole. We're looking
Hmm.
at basketball as a whole. We're looking at rebounds per game, 6.2. We're looking at 7.5, right? In my mind, that's obviously that's not that much. But that tells me you're gaining an extra possession per game. And a lot of these games are being decided by extra possessions, right? Because you're getting that
Hmm.
rebound. And now I'm looking at assists per games. My basketball mindset, again, understands looking at 5.3 and 7.3. Again, you're looking at nothing, obviously. What's 2 assists? That is I mean, if you think about it, I'm going to say 2 points because I'm just going to call it 2 points. You're looking at
Mhm,
possibly a 4 point swing. Let's say they take away 2 points for them. You're looking at not two shots of them, right? So you're looking
mhm,
at a 4 point possible to 8 point swing max of points, right? Again, if
mhm,
we're talking about a lot of these games being decided by possessions, now we're looking at extra possessions, we're looking at extra point swings, either being 4 to 8. Those are massive things that qualify from basketball's GOAT debates entirely.
mhm.
And looking at steals per game, right? I give that to Michael. Looking at 2.3 again, that's giving you an extra possession per game. You're looking at again that same 4 to 8 ratio per points per game. And then shooting percentage is just better. And then if I were to describe LeBron's, I guess, career, it's like a nuclear reactor, right? It's long, cool, hot, but still there, right? It's not is you can always rely on that bad boy coming through. It's not like that flamethrower that it's spurting out. We need a little something. Oh, it needs to retire for a year. No, we have
Yeah.
this nuclear reactor that's not everlasting, obviously, because he's going to be done. And as he's saying, I do believe that his stats are dropping. So, like, understanding, like, all right, now he's coming down. But again, his stats still are very impressive. Like, if I was playing in the NBA and I was getting 24, 8, 24/7 and 8, sign me up. I'll be there right now, dude. Sign me up. But I'm not. So that's kind of how I want to. I'll end that and give Michael his roses, like his points per game, and I would say his goatness is like a flamethrower, bright and hot, but not as intense as LeBron's.
Yeah, and that's something that I think that I mean, you made a good argument for LeBron James, and I will tell you that even I mean, that's probably the best argument I heard for LeBron James because it was a lot of people discuss championships, and I mean, LeBron James have lost in the whole numbers of championship. In reality, we should just consider Bill Russell the greatest of all time if we're just looking at the championships. I
Sure.
mean, so look, folks, I think Emmett has points for this discussion. I think LeBron James is the greatest of all time. I mean, I'm not going to admit it to it because I'm wearing a Detroit Piston hat. I'm going to say Isaiah Thomas is because I'm a Detroit guy and can't back out of Zeke. Zeke might
I
have to punch
represent.
me. Zeke might have to punch me in the face. Look, man, we made Michael. What are you talking about? We have to play against LeBron's. Oh, let's go to this team, that team. But look, folks, if you enjoy this podcast, let us know. Follow me on Apple, Spotify. Emmett, we gotta at least drop your business and where it's at. Tell them a little bit about your business and where it's at. What do you guys do?
Yeah, so Eden Café is located on the west side of Grand Rapids. A lot of people know it being next to Tacos Al Cuñado. It's a hot spot on the west side of Grand Rapids, right off the Lang exit. My main focus is to pour into the community that pours into us. Like, it's very fun to relate that to coffee and drinks, but that's mainly what we want to be there for. We understand we've been open for about 3 years now, and we understand the impact that community brings on us as a whole and how much impact we have on the community as a whole. Right. And so understanding in those years, we're like, okay, let's really dig into this community that we're in because we would be nothing without it. We serve awesome creative drinks. We have gourmet coffee. We like to say we have those base drinks like a cortado, espresso shots, flat whites, and we also have some fun creative drinks. Like we have a Girl Scout themed drink called our Sonoma Mocha with some Girl Scout cookies on top. We have a s'more latte that comes with a whole s'more on top. So we just want to be catering to all people like that. I'm a coffee enthusiast. Okay, we got you. We got pour overs. We got the flat whites. We got the cortados. You're like, hey, I like to go to Starbucks and like to get my caramel frappes and caramel macchiatos and sugar cookie lattes. Like we got that. Like we want to be creative and be able to appeal to that and understanding like what does our community need. We notice a lot of people maybe not don't like coffee. So like, hey, let's bring some smoothies on board. Like, hey, let's bring some teas on board. Next, it's like, hey, we want to see some food. So it's like, okay, now we're trying to see how we can get food on board. We do have some pastries and some light pastries and bagels. But mainly, Eden Cafe's identity is we want people to feel welcome and warmed in this space because it's a third space, right? People come here to do work. They want to feel welcome. They want to feel loved. And that's what we try to do. And they also make it that community feel.
All right, folks, and we'll also have his website under the all the other stuff that the podcast is through. Emmitt, it was a great discussion. Never going to argue with you again about LeBron James because we already did that.
I already did
So
that. Yeah. If you
there's no
want to have me
point for me.
on, I'll
Like,
argue some more.
yeah, I mean, I don't even know what I would even tell. Like, oh yeah, I forgot I had you on my podcast and I lost the show. So look,
For
folks,
sure.
come back, show us what's it about. Cheers to all of you. Follow Spotify, subscribe, peace, love, and I'm
Peace
out of
out.
here. Yeah, thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks, my man.